The Guild is Maximum Lawyers' community of legal entrepreneurs who are taking their businesses and lives to the next level. As a Guild member, you'll build relationships, be held accountable, and learn strategies specifically designed to get you unstuck and accelerate your plan for growth. Members are also granted exclusive access to masterminds hosted around the country. Our next event is coming up, and we're heading to Scottsdale, Arizona. There's something truly magical about the power of these in-person connections where real-time breakthroughs happen. Picture this. You're surrounded by like-minded law firm owners tackling your business and mindset challenges together. The energy is electric, the insights are transformative, and the results are game-changing. Investing in yourself is the best decision you'll ever make. The knowledge, strategies, and breakthroughs you'll gain are priceless assets that will supercharge your practice and propel you forward. Join the Guild and secure your ticket to Scottsdale at the best possible price by visiting maxlawevents.com.
Run your law firm the right way. This is the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Your hosts, Jim Hacking and Tyson Mutrux. Let's partner up and maximize your firm. Welcome to the show.
In today's episode, we're sharing a presentation from MaxLawCon 2020. Our originally scheduled MaxLawCon speaker, Morris Lilienthal, presented live to the Maximum Lawyer Guild community. And today we share his talk, Speaking to Grow Your Brand. Let's get to it.
Thanks, Becca. I appreciate you and Jim and Tyson and everybody allowing me this opportunity. So again, my name's Morris Lilienthal. I am a trial lawyer in Huntsville, Alabama, which is in North Alabama, about an hour and a half north of Birmingham, hour and a half south of Nashville. I am with the law firm of Martinson and Deason. There are 5 lawyers. We're a very old firm, been around 83 years, and we're a throwback firm. We really practice in about 85% of the practice areas that anybody in our town would need, but we each specialize. And so my area of expertise is personal injury law and trial law. So that's what I do. But I've also over the years done a lot in the last several years, really focused a lot on social media marketing. And so today, a lot of the things that I've done on digital and social have led in the last couple of years, opportunities like this to get up in front of people and speak and get in front of small stages. And then over the last couple of years, I've gotten the opportunity to speak at some national conferences. So I'm going to be talking about how you can use speaking engagements and getting opportunities to speak to grow your brand, and really kind of talk about a developmental process of how to get there. You know, you just don't get invited to speak at a national conference typically without some background. And I've kind of got a roadmap that folks can probably use, and something that was worked for me to allow me to be able to speak at engagements. So I'm excited to talk to everybody.
Awesome. I'm excited. Well, feel free to just dive on in.
Let's do it. All right. So I put together a PowerPoint because I'm always just anal and prepared. And I always feel that keeps me going. So I'm going to share my screen. Awesome. So that's going to be our topic today. So we're going to talk about that. So I think, why is everybody in this group, right? We're in this group because we want to grow and expand our practices somehow, right? And maybe that is you need more cases. Maybe you want to learn, you get more proficient at, practice management. Maybe there are other things in your practice that you want to develop and do. But I'd say on the whole, almost everybody in Max Law and certainly in the Guild wants to expand their practice, to grow their brand and referrals. So you're trying to get either more cases in or the more right kinds of cases in, even if you're not a big volume practice, whether it's injury law or estate planning or criminal defense. Maybe there's a certain segment of that, but you can do that. There's a lot of different ways. We talk about that here in Max Law. We talk about digital marketing and other types of marketing and ways to get things in. But one thing that I have seen from a lot of the other things that I'll kind of build on that has led me to do this and give you a roadmap for that is getting the opportunity to speak in front of people. I can assure you that Jim and Tyson probably would tell you that as Max Law has grown, the podcast and the groups have grown, I'm sure they're getting more referrals and contacts from people around the country just because they've gotten to know more people and their brand has grown. And so that can be true. You'll build other lawyers. The opportunities that are out there, if you build upon it, you're going to find other lawyers that are going to refer you cases. You're going to have opportunities from other people in the community or the referral partners. And so all this can really snowball and do. But I really think it's just saying, hey, get on the stage and speak. You can meet a lot of people and get get referrals that way and build your brand. How do you do it? And so I'm really a nuts and bolts kind of guy. And so I like to talk about it from a simplistic standpoint because that's the way my country mind works. So let's talk about that and ways we can do that. And so I want to kind of walk us through that. So I think we've got to identify what you want to talk about, right? And so where do you think that you have a level of expertise and a skill set that you would be able to get up and talk to an audience about something that would be certainly interesting and appealing to people and do, and what your skill set is? So you've got to find that. And I think really do feel that, a lot of times, I may have an expertise on something or know a lot about something, but may not be that passionate about it. And I can tell, and I think probably everybody in the group can tell when somebody's talking about something and they're just talking about it ad nauseum and they know about it, but they're just kind of boring and mundane. They're not passionate about it. And we each have our own personalities, but I think it's something you need to be passionate about, because if you're going to put in the time and effort that we're going to be talking about here this afternoon to develop a strategy to where you can get on the stage to grow your brand, it better be something you're passionate about. Because if it's not, you're not going to put the work in, or you're going to half-ass put the work in, and you're not going to see the results that you want. And you're going to be like, well, this is not working for me. I'm just going to stop. I put too much time in. What a waste of time. So that's kind of the first thing. And then you need to make sure that there's an audience for your topic too. I mean, again, similar to that, you might have something you're an authority on and something that you're passionate about. But if it is something, that is not, there's not really a base or a group of people that you can reach out to and talk to them about and network with, it's probably not something that you want to try to become authority on and speak at. It seems simplistic, but you really need to be thinking far along the road as, who can I speak to? What groups can I get in front of? Is there a platform for me for my area of expertise out there? And how do you get to that area and that platform? So, talking about it really more from a legal perspective. So you've got at least 3 areas that I think you could break it down in. A lot of members in our group have an area of expertise in the law and would be comfortable in doing that. Ryan Locke does a lot of appellate law. Ryan was a guest on my last show, and we were talking about the U.S. Supreme Court and how appellate law works and trying to newsjack that a little bit. But he has an area of expertise on that. And that is something that he or somebody else who may have an area of expertise in estate planning, that you could develop presentations and things that there would be a base of people, not only in the legal community, but for estate planning. You might could work and look towards speaking to accountants and tax preparers, speaking to people in the senior communities that maybe need to have those questions answered and done. So there is an area of expertise, and then there's an audience for that you could build on. Well, the next thing is the stuff that I like to speak about and do one that I feel I have more of an expertise, or at least somewhat of a knowledge set on. And that is marketing. And that is, social media marketing. Maybe you're like Jim and you're very passionate about doing YouTube videos or maybe you're like John Fisher and you have built up a really good referral network and you do a good job with newsletters to your referral attorney partners. And those are things that you can talk about. And then maybe practice management or practice systems, maybe something, Ryan McKean or Tyson or somebody like that here is really dialed into FileVine and policies and procedures and wikis and all that kind of stuff, which I am terrible with. And, you have that there, and there's a skill set there and a knowledge base that there are lawyers all around the country that would want to know and talk to you about that kind of thing. And it crosses segments. So, for example, a few years ago, I've been speaking about how lawyers should use social media. How can you grow your brand and referrals using social media, which is a kind of a subset conversation of what we're talking about today. But one of the first national conferences that I spoke at was a workers' compensation conference in Las Vegas. I do that much workers' compensation. Yuck, we can't make any money at it in Alabama unless you have a huge volume of cases. So I don't do it. I refer it out. But that conference, the topic was something that those lawyers want to know about. So my topic, my area of expertise crosses practice areas and opens me up to be able to speak to and get in front of a much larger base. All right. And then certainly other things, finances, human resources, those are just some ideas that I was throwing out there that you could speak about. So I think what you've got to do is, to start out, you've got to position yourself as an authority. How do you do that? I mean, there are people that I know and that you all know watching today's presentation that are authorities that you may reach out to, but people outside of their little circle don't recognize them or understand their skill set or their knowledge base. And so I think there are many ways, and we've talked about a lot of these in Maximum Lawyer over the years and at the last couple of conferences. And this is kind of a refresher that you can demonstrate your level of expertise. So, scholarly articles, if you're writing legal articles, if you've written other articles, getting those out there and continuing to write that. Hey, I've written this book. A lot of people are writing books and a lot of people in our group have done that. And that's one way to position yourself as an authority on that subject. Another is a blog, and it's a little shorter format and a little easier. It might be a way to kind of crawl before you walk or run, is put together a blog on that subject and write and consistently put out useful, valuable information for an audience to do. And then that is something, as you're looking to get speaking opportunities, you can reflect back upon that, hey, I've got this blog, or I've got these scholarly articles. Now, one of the things that I've done is try to just kind of naturally happen was to be a guest on other people's podcasts, even before I started my podcast, right? And so, we'll kind of reflect upon that in a few minutes and show you something else that I've done and kind of highlight those podcasts that I've been a guest on as a way to position myself as an authority. So when you're kind of narrowing down, as we talked about in the previous slide, about what subject matters you want to speak about and what audiences are out there, when you're looking at those audiences and trying to identify that, think about, are there podcasts out there? Is there a world within the podcast sphere that has people who are either talking about the subject that I'm in, or there is a segment of that area that would touch on or be interested in the topic that I want to talk about and do? And then the great thing with that is it builds trust and it builds credibility. As you're writing these articles, or you write a book, or you're a guest on podcast, you're starting to build your base and your level of credibility. And then as you do that, the next thing is you could launch a podcast or launch a Facebook Live show and to talk about these things. And, I know for a lot of people in the group, and I hear people in the big group and others as I've spoken, they're scared to death to do that. But it's so easy. The level of tech is nothing, and it doesn't cost much. And, everybody's doing it now in terms of Zoom, getting and doing it. And it's really easy, and you can do it or hire a virtual assistant or hire a high school student to help you, take and put the podcast together and start building a framework of expertise and reference points to get you to a point where people will look at you as an authority to reach out to have you as a guest at a conference to be a speaker. And that's kind of what you're looking for. One of the first things that, I did was I started with my tips for Mo, and then started with the Mo Show and started doing all that. And then Jim and Tyson reached out early on in the first year or two of their podcast and asked me to be a guest on to talk about those things, that how to do social media. And then I was, got to be a speaker at the first Maximum Lawyer Conference to talk about those things. But that was based upon me building and demonstrating that I was an expert in that topic and doing it, because people are, again, just not going to invite you unless you do that. Some other ways to do that, and certainly Jim does a great job of that, and that's with YouTube. If you're with videos, right? I mean, certainly if you've spoken to Jim, he's an authority and knows from a legal perspective, immigration law. But on the whole, how I think a lot of people would view Jim is he's an expert because of his YouTube channel. People in the community know him as an expert based upon YouTube, and that he has put out a litany of videos and reference points for people. Well, that is part of that pyramid we were just talking about. That is building up his credibility and his trust in doing that. And there's Alicia with her podcast and doing that. The other thing is social media. And so depending upon what you're talking about and doing, you can use social media in so many ways to amplify that and do, whether it's if you have a podcast, sharing that out and putting that out there and tagging people and doing that kind of thing. Or, for me, the things that I have done and is be consistent about it. And if you're going to do a podcast, if you're going to do YouTube, if you're going to write blog articles and things, you can't just do a few and say, well, I'm ready for the big stage now. You've got to consistently put content out there. And it's, to me, it's more of a slow burn and do. And I really think that you've got to do it that way. And it's, a marathon, not a sprint. And sometimes in some respects, it's a never ending marathon. And that makes me hurt as a fat guy to think about that. But that is, that's just something you've got to do. You've got to consistently do it. I think one of the things that has allowed me to have opportunities to speak at things just like this is that I have been consistently for 3 years putting content out there and people recognize me for that and people support me because I have done that. I'm just over and over again. I'm top of mind. Well, you want to become top of mind if you're going to be a YouTube expert, if you're doing YouTube where you can speak about that, or if you're talking about appellate law. If I've got an appellate issue, that's the person that I think about in my circle that I want to talk about. And so if I've got an issue at a conference that I want to get somebody to speak about some kind of a new change in the law and how we're doing appeals, then I want that person or this person to come and talk about it.
Hey guys, it's Becca here. I'm sure you've heard Jim and Tyson mention the Guild on the podcast and in the Facebook group. That's because we're seeing some really exciting things happening with Guild members and their businesses. The Guild is this perfect mix of a community, group coaching, and a mastermind. Inside, you'll gain support, tap into a network of connections, and continue learning, a common theme among successful entrepreneurs. There are so many benefits inside the Guild, including weekly live events and discounts to all Maximum Lawyer events. Head over to MaximumLawyer.com/the Guild to check out all of the benefits and watch a few testimonials from current members. Investing in a community is like the self-care of business ownership. Being in a community with other people who get it is crucial when you're creating a rock-solid foundation to build your business on, one that's strong enough to withstand setbacks, transitions, and growth. So head to MaximumLawyer.com and click on the Guild page to join us. Now, let's get back to the episode.
All right, so this is something that I think is really big. Is once you get started with building your pyramid and building your blocks, I think it's huge to reach out and connect with players. And so in every space, especially in the niches that we're talking about, we're trying to get on at, marketing or legal conferences or some other, other segments to be speakers at in estate planning or taxing or whatever your area of practice is. And we're not trying to get on the Today Show to start with. Right. So what we want to do is these people are often much more receptive and you're able to contact and reach out to them and so find who are the major players in your space. Right. And so connect with them by, trolling their websites and blogs and following them, giving feedback and commenting with them on social media. Do what you're doing here in the Max Law Group. Join Facebook groups or other groups and that discuss that topic or subject. If you're talking about estate planning, get in some estate planning groups or join some local groups that talk about with seniors. And that when those issues come up, maybe comment or give some information back, not self-promotion about you, but give feedback about that and give some information about that. That's going to be huge because then people are going to start relating to you as an authority in that area. And certainly attending legal conferences and meeting people and greeting people and talking to people and getting to know people. But that has been very integral in me and that's kind of how I got early on with Jim and Tyson, meeting them when the Max Law was kind of just starting to get going good. And then that's the same thing with Law Clerk and some of the things that they've reached out and had done to me. And to be frank, I've never used Law Clerk ever, but they have sounds like a great service. Wouldn't hesitate to use it. But they have seen what I've been doing and have built these blocks up. So they've reached out to have me to do that. And certainly some things I've done with Mitch and doing it and then getting to know him and relate to him and do some things a little bit here and there, and then getting to write a chapter in his book. Those are things that have allowed me to then continue to build my base up to become more of an authority to get on stage to speak. And then tagging people and here's just some examples of Ryan McKean tagging and using his book as a way to be an authoritative speaker. Same thing with Alicia talking about a podcast and tagging other people. But if I'm not mistaken, the way that I really introduced myself to Jim and Tyson several years ago was somebody told me about their podcast, and it was very early on. I listened to the podcast at the gym one morning, and I came and I think I took a selfie out in front of our office and tagged Jim and Tyson, said, "This is great. This is awesome. Thanks for, providing this resource for lawyers." That's how I met them. States away, never met and do. And that started a dialogue and an interaction with them that's, led to me to help me grow my brand, and certainly led to me being a better lawyer and a lot of other things that this great group does for us. But if you're not finding people who are influential in doing it. And here's another great example. So Tad Thomas, Tad is the lawyer in Kentucky. I wanted to have on someone from the American Association for Justice, AAJ, which is used to be called the National Trial Lawyers Group for personal injury lawyers. And I reached out to them and said, hey, I want to have the president on to talk about what AAJ does and the importance of AAJ. I host a Facebook Live show. I'm a member of your organization. Hook me up with somebody. And so they hooked me up with Tad, and Tad was, third or fourth in line to be president of the national organization. There's a hierarchy, once you get it, you follow through the food chain there for several years. But I had him on to talk about it and do. And lo and behold, because I made that connection with him, the last couple of years, he's been on the boards for the National Marketing Seminar for AAJ in Miami and New Orleans. Well, guess what? I've gotten invited to speak about how to run a Facebook Live show. Talk about that. I got invited to speak about how to run a podcast. Talk about that. But that connection, finding that key player and making that connection with him and his influence allowed him to identify me as an expert in the field to say, hey, Mo knows about this and does this, and certainly probably if he can do it, anybody can. But it allows me to connect with him, and that led me to getting on stage. In fact, today, a perfect example. I had a former guest of mine on my show who is a former city councilman who also runs a radio show on the largest ESPN network that covers all of North Alabama from Mississippi line to Georgia state line. Huge radio station. Reached out to me this morning and said, hey, I'd love to have you be a guest on our Saturday morning show. That came about, and I'm going to get to be a cool guest on his radio show in the next couple of weeks on a Saturday morning because of the connecting with key players. And it's going to get me out there, and I'm going to, get in front of a new audience and be in front of thousands of listeners to do. But that came from connecting with key players. And then, I call being on a radio show the same as being speaking platform. It's just the same thing. It's the end goal is trying to get my name out there and grow my brand. But that all came from connecting with key players. And I think you'll learn once you start doing these building blocks and start making these connections. And everybody in this group has done that. If you're in the guild and you're in Max Law, you're reaching out to be around other people who are like-minded that are wanting to grow and do. And that's the same thing that, whatever your level of expertise is, those people are wanting to grow and learn more about that. Okay. So this is something that I think is, I would say, level 300 or 400 level class type stuff. And certainly you can start it earlier and do, but this is something I've done in the last year or so. And that is, once I have built those building blocks and just said, okay, here's my level of expertise, here's my tips, here's my show. I started to be a guest on a few podcasts. I've started to speak at some national and state conferences. What can I do to really solidify myself as an expert and solidify my brand? And to be frank, that sounds so cocky and so conceited to say that I have a brand. I can wear a brand because I'm, like a walking billboard. But anyway, it's a way to solidify yourself as an expert. So if I'm wanting to be an expert on social media marketing for lawyers and allow people to, kind of know the Mo Show brand or whatever you want to call it, I decided that I thought building a website to discuss that and go through that was critical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen for 1 second and show you the website and kind of walk you through my mindset on this and how you can do that on whatever area of expertise that you want to. So basically, what I decided that I wanted to do and what I think you can do to build your brand and grow your presence is, have something on here to address whatever your expertise is. And so I've just got your standard homepage. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to come up with, okay, well, here's all the different subjects and matters and people that I've had be guests on my show. And then I said, let's take a clips and let's create a little 30-second highlight reel. And so that's what I did. So this allows me a multifold approach for me, from my perspective, is if I'm asking someone to be a guest on my Facebook Live show, they can get an idea of what I'm doing about the show here. And in 30 seconds, they understand what I'm doing with the show. But if I'm wanting to be a speaker at a big conference and they're considering me, if they go to this website, they're going to see, hopefully, that I've positioned myself as the authority on social media for lawyers. And so you've got all of that there. And for me, it's a quick way. If I'm live, somebody can just hit that button and they go right to my Facebook Live show and can watch the show live. And it's certainly branded the Mo Show Live. but all of my interviews are here. So, I'm walking what I'm talking here. There they are right there. There's the one from last week with Alicia and Ryan and doing it, and on and on and on and on. And I will kind of give kudos to my virtual assistant, who's the one that puts all this together for me. She makes this happen, and she really does a great job with that. But then we take this, and that's the other thing I would tell you with everything we're talking about, find ways to repurpose it. We talk about that a lot in the group. So we take the Mo Show, my Facebook Live show, and that is repurposed into a podcast. And so that podcast then comes out the next week. I have an intro and an outro that I had a voiceover person do. And then my virtual assistant, she does all that. We send it out to Rev, and we have a transcript. She takes that transcript, puts it in, loads it all up to YouTube too. And then she'll take the best 60-second snippet or two, and she creates an audiogram. That's what I call it, which is a little WAV file with the thing. We use a headliner.app. And then we send it all out. But it's all automated and done. But it's a way for me to systemize these kind of things and to help build my brand and position me more as an authority. So there I am right there again with, just my tips. And that's a plug-in. If you're looking to do something cool like that, my digital folks pulled it. And so we don't do that manually. That's a plug-in, and it pulls straight from Instagram. But, then there's the podcast, right? And so there are all the episodes and so forth and so on. And then there are my Fun Weekend Work shirts. But that is just fun stuff. And that's just the way I do that. And then the one thing and the other thing I would encourage you to do is put an about page about you. And so let me show you what I did here. There's me. There's my Uncle Rico moment there, win state championship. And then there's my passion that everybody in the group knows about with the March Dimes. There's my crew. And then here's what I did at the bottom, right? So here's a little about my legal background. And then I start putting all of the conferences in the last couple of years that I've spoken at to give some authority to what I've spoken at. Now, if I was really doing my due diligence when I'm at these conferences, I would do a better job of getting pictures of me speaking. By the way, Becca, that's the first Maxlaw Con right there in St. Louis. And then here are actual links to me being a guest on these podcasts. And so that gives me some authority. And there's a link to Mitch's book that I was a contributing author in. So if I'm looking to be a speaker or being considered to be a speaker, if I'm applying to be a speaker, I think this certainly helps position me as an authority on my topic, which is kind of social media marketing for lawyers and digital. So that is, one of the things that I think I've done, which is kind of, I don't know, next level. It was just a progression of what I wanted to do, to grow and build. So, that's kind of where you can show off and do. And so that's what I've done there. And then I think the thing is start small, and that's kind of what you do. And I think any opportunity you can get it. And so, I started off in speaking at local city bar association meetings and stuff, speaking at a regional or state level workers' comp meeting that David Bernard Nomberg set me up with, and then got to speak at, other conferences and then one thing led to another. And then I'm getting, connecting with players, as I said earlier, Ted Thomas and other players, Jim and Tyson and all these players, and finding areas and niches, the people that would have a platform for me to speak at on my subject. And once you do that, I really think it's going to grow and do. And again, I would encourage you to, social engagement, not only sharing your content, but giving feedback and commenting on other people's content is huge, because people always love that engagement and do. And so, whatever group you're at, or if you're in some Facebook group or you're going to attending conferences, don't just, self-promote, but put people's stuff out there and give other people shout outs and give feedback. I, found out that's, certainly good. And, the mindset a lot of the times that we talk about in this group, with Bob Berg's thing and giving without expecting anything, and things will certainly come in spades in return and do. But that's kind of how I done it. And I'm trying to continue to build upon it and grow upon that and have fun with it and do, this will be my tip from Mo for in the guild today. I'll give you guys a legal tip from Mo. We bought a subscription recently. I think it's a couple $100 to this Andertunes thing. And so we've got my virtual assistant that helps me put all our stuff on social for the firm. We get tons of comments on this. So we share a funny legal cartoon or some other. The cool thing with the subscription is it's not just illegal. You get a subscription to everything, and then it's for a couple $100 you get the rights to use it and share it on social, and even in your newsletters and stuff. So we wanted to be legal about it and pay a couple $100 instead of getting in trouble with these guys. And so, but there's tons of engagement in doing so. That was just it. But I just try to have some fun there. But that's me. And if I can ever help anybody and please interact, engage. If we're not friends on social, please hit me up on all those. If you're starting out on social, don't do what I did and have 50 different handles. Just try to do. And you can obviously tell that my football, I was not born in 1973. My college football number was 73. That's where the 73 comes in at. But I appreciate everybody tuning in and doing. And if anybody's got any questions, I will be glad to entertain them.
Perfect. We do have one question. So Alexis is wondering, do you find any difference in engagement on off the cuff videos versus more professional or planned out videos?
I think generally off the cuff, I get a lot more engagement with, what I typically do with my tips and just anything else that I'm doing. Some of them are off the cuff in the sense that I'll see something that inspires me and I'll just do it, or I'll take the notes field in my phone. For example, Alexis, I was on Peloton this morning, and Alex, I think we're all mandatory. We're going to say something about Peloton, but this is true. I was on, the instructor said something that kind of resonated with me. And in a moment when I wasn't dying of exhaustion, I grabbed my phone, banged out about 2 or 3 words on my notes app, saved it. So when I come back to do a tips from Mo, I'll do it. But that's been a question I've talked to a lot of people about. I think there's a place for polished videos, and some people, their mindset is everything has to be polished. That's great. If that's your mindset, if you're that type of personality, I get it. Do what you got to do. But for me, I think most of the people in this group are not going to do it because they don't have the time or the resources to get it super polished. And I think maybe your firm overview video, but all my tips from Mo, all the little funky videos that I do, tips with my son, and then, on my Mo show, nothing's fancy about that. This is a cheap Logitech camera, and I've got the, 2-year-old iPhone. And that's what I'm doing.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yes, we will talk soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. To stay in contact with your host and to access more content, go to MaximumLawyer.com. Have a great week and catch you next time.